what's going on, y'all? I am Jake Thomas and welcoming you to another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid, a podcast where hopefully you will find some traits, pick up some notes, and learn a little thing or two in order to live a life that is happy, healthy, and wealthy by not being exactly to the title speaks, sick, scared, and stupid. Today's guest is a good friend. She makes an incredible product. She's an online personality in the carnivore world. We were just talking about her company, Purely Tallow. Some of you may have heard of it. You may have seen me promoting it. You may see it behind her, actually, that she's got on her shelf there. But creating products out of all 100% grass-fed beef tallow for skin, for topical use, for hair, for nails, for anywhere you need it, it will work. And I'm a fan and an advocate and a promoter of her business and anything else that she's doing lately in the carnivore space. Her recipes are really cool, and you got to check her out online. We'll talk more about that shortly. But without further ado, Miss Serena Musick. Thank you, Serena, for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jake, for having me. It's an honor.
Man, I mean, that pink hoodie, I'm already a big fan of. Showing up bright and light. I love that in the morning. It's awesome.
That's right.
So what got you into making, let's go right out with it. What got you into making skincare products out of beef tallow? First off, people out there hearing that, like, what? Like, people put beef fat on their bodies? Are you kidding me? People rub that on their skin. Doesn't that taste weird, smell weird? Like, why would you do that? That's disgusting. I mean, that was probably me not too long ago, to be honest. I would have, 10 years ago, you say that to me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm a coconut oil guy. Don't do that. Don't talk about that. That sounds gross.
Same here.
What got you into doing that and then scaling and, going through those phases of, all right, I'm going to pump out a couple of bottles. And now, like you said, you're shipping out, 200 orders a month.
Well, even about 3 years ago, if somebody had told me, I would have been like, yeah, that's a hard pass. Even at the beginning of Carnivore, I would have been like, I don't think so. I'm not putting that on my skin. But I heard about the benefits of it and got a booth at my local farmer's market. And I was selling it there. And pretty much as many as I took would sell. Now, I had a booth there before, selling, various products. At one point I made, coconut oil lotions to sell there and decorative spoons. It was just like a fun thing for me to do. My teenage girls had a gluten-free baking business. And so they would set up at the farmer's market and they didn't need me to sit with them. So I just asked if I could have a booth too and just started making stuff. And when I started hearing about tallow lotion at the beginning of Carnivore, it wasn't long into Carnivore, a few months maybe, I was like, I do like natural products. I mean, I have for years been a wellness advocate for doTERRA essential oils. So like we don't even usually have a medicine cabinet in our house. We just use essential oils for everything. So our kids haven't been to the doctor for a sick appointment in probably 11 or 12 years. We just don't do that. We just treat everything here at home. And so it was like right along those lines for me. It was like, well, I am really careful with my skincare products, my shampoo. I don't clean with, regular cleaning products. I use vinegar and essential oils, to clean things, baking soda to scrub things so this is right along those lines. And so I just tried using some and I couldn't believe how it felt on my skin. And I was like, do other people want this? So I started making it. So I whip it, I make the beef tallow and then whip it and, it kind of fluffs up. It looks a lot like whipped cream and it just feels amazing. And there is a difference between non-whipped and whipped. The non-whipped is a little bit greasier, better for like a nighttime use versus the whipped, which really isn't greasy at all. But when you do the research and you really look into it, it's not gross at all. And on a cellular level, it matches the lipid profile of our skin and our body so well that it absorbs really quickly and it can help, take care of things like eczema, psoriasis, diaper rash. I mean, the sky's the limit for the things that you can use this for. And you can also eat it. It's 100% natural. There's nothing artificial in it. One of the ways that I'm trying for my business to stand apart from some of the other businesses that sell beef tallow lotion is a lot of them use olive oil, jojoba oil, coconut oil in theirs. And those things, I mean, there is information out there. Those things can be good for your skin, but I'm trying to really stand apart by not doing that. So when I need to dilute the tallow and make it like creamier or make it like a thinner texture, I use emu oil in it instead of using like an olive oil to thin it. I have a couple of products that use wild camel hump fat in them. because wild camel hump fat is historically known for being really good for your skin and for healing. My lip balm has beeswax, beef tallow, and some goose fat in it, because goose fat is very good at both healing and protecting your skin, your lips from ulcers and cold sores and things like that. So some research goes into it. We try to figure out, the best fats to use that are animal fats. And then some of the products are unscented, so it would just be those animal products. And then some of them have a scent, and that would be really good, top quality essential oils. I did just order rose oil straight from a farm in Bulgaria, which is really exciting. So now I have these Bulgarian rose scents, which rose is really good for your skin. They call it the queen of essential oils. So it's really good for your skin, rejuvenating and things like that. And when you really sit back and you look at the products that we use for our skin now, the products are toxic. The products that you go to the store and you buy, and even if you try to buy the cleanest one, or even if it says natural on it, just remember there's no FDA regulation on those things. So somebody can say that, like for instance, with olive oil, it can say 100%, but it really only has to be 5% to be for them to be able to say that. So you could be getting an olive oil or a facial cleanser or something like that really is not what it says on the jar. So it's really best to go local or small business with those kinds of things when you feel like you can trust the person, because there is no regulation on it. Excuse me. So just keep that in mind when you're buying stuff.
That's a big tidbit there. Let's go back to that. You said 11 to 12 years since your kids have had to see the doctor or go to the hospital or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. And they've been sick. I mean, don't get me wrong. We get sick, but we just don't rush to the doctor. Even things like, when they were younger, I had a scope. I could look in their ears and I could see, the doctor showed me how, told me what to look for an ear infection. So I could tell when they had an ear infection, and I would treat that with essential oils. We've treated strep throat, or what I thought was strep throat, because we didn't go to the doctor for it. So I'm assuming it was strep throat, but we've treated strep throat, bronchitis, what I'm pretty sure was pneumonia one time. All just with essential oils.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's, nature gives us a lot. Nature gives us a lot of really cool stuff that we can use. And I do think there's a place for plants in medicine. I don't eat plants. My kids do. My whole family is not carnivore, but I do think there is a place for plants. And I think topically, and even internally, when it's a severe case, like something like oregano oil is an antibiotic. That can be taken in a capsule form. It's a very hot oil, so you do have to be really careful with it because it can burn you. But if you put it in a capsule and take like literally 1 or 2 drops, works like a penicillin would work. So it's really amazing what you can do with that. We've healed ear infections, with a fever of 102, red, inflamed inside, can't sleep from the pain, a little bit of lavender oil on the ear, a little bit of melaleuca or tea tree oil on the ear to kill the bacteria. Lavender's for pain, a little bit of basil on a cotton ball inside there. You wake up the next morning, or within 2 days, the ear infection is gone. So we've saved a lot of money like that by not rushing to the doctor. They go in for well child checkups occasionally, but we just have not seen the need to go in even for, some pretty severe sicknesses. Now, if it got really bad, obviously I would go if I needed to. I think there's a place for modern medicine too.
Sure.
But I think if you can handle those kinds of things at home, like we don't have to rush to the doctor just because they have a fever. Even if they're 2 and they have a fever, we don't have to rush to the doctor for that. There are many things that we can do at home, and the fever is your body's way of fighting the sickness. And so if you suppress that with Tylenol or ibuprofen on a constant basis while they're sick, the sicknesses tend to last longer. So there were actually times where a friend would come over and not tell us her kids were sick. My kids would get sick 3 days later, and my kids would be better, 3 or 4 days before her kids were better, because we weren't suppressing it. We weren't taking cough medicine. We were letting the stuff come up when it needs to. We were letting them blow their noses to get the congestion out instead of, suppressing it with the medication. And so I think there's a lot to be said for a more natural way of healthcare. We've saved a ton of money, even with the money that I spend on essential oils. We have saved a ton of money and time by not going to the doctor. I had 4 kids, I homeschooled. And so going to the doctor when my kids were 4 and 6 and 10 and 12 was like a nightmare. I would load everybody up in the car sick, take everybody 30 minutes to the doctor, wait for an hour, and then they pick up something they didn't already have at the doctor's office. And it would be like an entire day stopping for prescriptions on the way home. I mean, it was hard, to do that on a regular basis. And so when I found the essential oils, I was like, this is the key to a more relaxing life. We would line them up on the couch, oil them all up, before bed. And it made our life so much more relaxing to not have to rush to the doctor and feel like we have taken control and taken some of that stuff into our own hands. Really helpful, as a parent of young children then. And now my kids have grown, they're older now, and two of them are adults, and another one's going to be an adult this year. And then I have a 15-year-old, and they don't run to medicines. Like when they, I have a nice cabinet with all of my oils on it, and they go to that when they know what to do. If they get stung by a bee, they know to put lavender on it. They know what to do. If they have a sore muscles, they know what to put on it. So it's been really helpful in our lives. And I feel like it has helped them as they have grown up. And I don't think they will move into adulthood and parenthood and be rushing their kids to the doctor every couple of weeks, for a sickness that, like, okay, your kid has the cold, right? Your kid has a cold. Like, you don't need to go to the doctor every time they have a sniffle. Like the doctor's going to send you home and say, yeah, they're sick. Yeah, I know they're sick. And that's what would happen. That's what would happen twice a month. I'd get sent home saying my kids are sick. I know they're sick already. So why did I go to the doctor? So it really is much easier to take some of that control back from the medical system. And obviously, if you're seriously concerned about something or something looks infected, or, you need to take responsibility for that and do what you think is best. But we have managed for, I think it's close to 12 years to not go to the doctor for a sickness.
Wow. So homeopathy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Really cool. What came, was that the catalyst for you to get into this crazy world of carnivorous eating?
Well, I think it's all connected for sure. For me, we've always been pretty healthy eaters. Our kids, one of their first foods was green beans out of a can with no salt added. I never used baby food for any of my kids. Everything was natural. Everything was, made in our house, whether it was a mashed up banana or oatmeal. I didn't use, like the baby oatmeal and things like that. Everything was, food. I would call it like human grade, like it was real food. It didn't have all the garbage in it. It doesn't need to be enhanced or fortified in all the ways that it is for a baby. They're just mini us, and they don't need like special stuff. You just make it work. We didn't have Gerber baby food, 150 years ago, and people made it work, right? You just figure it out. We would be at stoplights when the kids were, some of them were a year old, or they were 2 and 4 years old or something. And we would stop at a stoplight and they were hungry. And I had a can opener in the car, and I would open a can of green beans and I would dump the water out, and then I would hand them the can, and that's what they would eat for a snack. I mean, they did eat things like goldfish and stuff like that, but for the most part, I've always been really health minded and really careful with what we eat. They've never had a store-bought birthday cake that I bought them. I mean, they've had it at other places, grandparents' house and things like that, but I always make the birthday cakes.
Wow.
We've never been just kind of normal, I guess. And so I think, that leads into when I heard about the essential oils and realized I could, almost eliminate my doctor's appointments, and save money at the same time. So food has always been a priority for me. And when I started, it was out of desperation. I had a weird post-sickness that I won't name. I had a weird issue after having that where things tasted and smelled rotten to me, like Jake's laughing because I didn't say the name of the sickness, because you can't say that or you get banned. And so after I was better, my taste and smell never really came back. And when it did, things tasted and smelled. The only way I could describe it at the time was like a rotten skunk carcass somebody had lit on fire. It was life-altering hard. Life-altering. It was months of eating nothing but sugar because it was the only thing that tasted and smelled fairly normal. The butter had a little bit of a weird scent to me, but it couldn't stop me from eating a bunch of cupcakes. And then I could eat a hamburger patty fresh off the grill, and I could eat a New York strip fresh off the grill. Those were the only meats I could eat. Cheese, garlic, onion, peanut butter, popcorn, coffee. Oh gosh, coffee smelled so bad, but we would be like I'd be roller skating with my kids, and when they would drop new fries at the snack bar, I would have to cover my face with something. I would put like oils on a jacket or something and put it over my face because the smell made me sick. I spent days in bed from going to a restaurant and coming home sick to my stomach from the smell. I mean, it was just, if you've ever smelled something that actually made you vomit, that's what everything smelled like. Imagine throughout your days going like that. My husband came home one time and I was in our camper in the driveway crying because our daughter was making eggs and I couldn't be in the house. I mean, that's how bad it was. And so I was trying to heal that. I was hoping that I could heal that. I had done a 5-day water fast and it healed it 100%, but 2 days later it came back. So I like,
Mm.
there's got to be something that'll fix this.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
ultimately,
I was saying, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So ultimately, on my 48th birthday, my girls with the gluten-free baking business, they make the best vanilla cupcakes. And so they made me a double batch of cupcakes, and I
Nice.
ate 20 in 36 hours. That's where I was. It was like, that's the kind of binge I was
Mm.
in. I had had eating disorders, disordered eating. I bought my first diet pills when I was 12. So I've been like sick in that way my whole life. Like everything revolved around food. I brought Weight Watchers Smart Ones, those little meals, frozen meals,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
brought one of those to a Christmas dinner one time because
Wow.
I didn't want to binge on the food. Like that's how bad it was for me for
Wow.
years.
Wow.
And so because of this issue with my taste and smell, I was basically eating sweets, and I ate all of those cupcakes, and I was sad. I was crying all the time. Every day I would smell something that would make me sick, and I would cry, and I was depressed. It was horrible.
Mm.
And so my birthday was on a Saturday. I ate all of those cupcakes, and I woke up on Monday morning and said, okay, I got to stop. Like, I mean, I woke up just feeling like an alcoholic or a drug addict must feel when they hit rock bottom. I just felt like I can't continue like this. Like something has to give. I've never eaten that much sugar, on a regular basis. Like I had the 3 months prior to that, I was gaining weight, which just
Yeah.
made my disordered eating worse. It made me want to starve myself.
Yeah.
It made me want to do drastic things. I was pretty messed up from it, and not being able to eat the things that I had always thought were healthy, fruits and vegetables. They all tasted and smelled rotten. And that was
Mm.
hard. It was hard for me to cook for my family. We couldn't go out to eat. Like it was so hard. And so that Monday morning I had gone running, and I came home and I was like, okay, so if the only thing I can eat that is not a sugar, it doesn't have sugar in it, is a hamburger patty and a rib and a New York strip right off the grill, then that's what I'm going to eat. And so I decided that morning that's what I was going to do. And then I just started like questioning myself, like, can I survive like that? Like as if the cupcakes I was eating were any better, right? But of course I questioned myself, can I survive on just those things and hopefully this will heal? And so I started doing that. And then while I was starting that Monday morning, that very day after I had made the decision, I started doing research, and of course found the Joe Rogan podcast with Sean Baker on it. I found Kelly Hogan. I found
Yeah.
Laura Spath. I started finding these people, and I was like, wait a minute, people live like this? And at that point, I thought it would just be temporary. I thought
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll get through this issue with my nose. Maybe I'll, get this weight off that I've gained, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it, with the ease of it, with the health of it. Once you do the research and realize how honestly and truly healthy the meat is, that red meat is a superfood. And once you learn that and you let go of being afraid of the fat in the red meat, like your life will change. And so that's what really got me started, was that post sickness issue with my smell and taste. And would I have done it aside from that if I had just heard about it? I don't know. I probably would. I had done some crazy diets, like the cabbage soup diet, and I mean, I had done some crazy things.
Yeah.
So I probably would have tried it. I don't know. I can't go back and look now and say, but it's been amazing for me. Best decision I ever made for my health, for sure.
Wow. Wow. And that's coming from, all the experience with homeopathy and everything else and the preparations with the kids and
Yeah.
homeschooling and yet that pivotal moment to say like,
Yeah.
this is the one for the best one for me. That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's been your like rolling, I guess what was the evolution, right? Like, so I see what you eat now and you've got quite an array of cool foods and awesome recipes. And I
Mm-hmm.
keep up, seeing what you post. What were the steps to kind of get into that diversity? Were you scared also? How did that start and what got you to basically where you are now eating what you are?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was scared because even seeing all this stuff, it's just so hard to believe that we were wrong all of those years, that
Mm.
all of the nutrition information that we get from almost any actual nutritionist and, food person, almost all of the information that we get from dietitians and
Yeah.
doctors and hospitals, and that all of that information is wrong, is
Yeah.
so hard to wrap your mind around and to understand how we let that happen. How did that happen? And so when I went to the doctor to have my blood work done and stuff the first year, so I usually go like in April, So blood work's like March, and then my appointment's in April. And so I had just been when I started carnivore in May of that year. So I had just been to the doctor, and I had multiple things wrong with me. They put me on, multiple supplements. He's not a homeopath, but a functional medicine doctor. So he would prescribe vitamins and nutrients and things like that before he would prescribe a medicine, if that's what you want. So he put me on all kinds of things. I left there with I was deficient in many things, and I was eating, I would say 75% of my plate was low carb vegetables, and then lean meats is what I was eating at the time. I was following Weight Watchers, but I was also juicing a little bit. So I thought I was doing the right thing. Carrot juice, celery juice, green juices. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was cleansing my body. I thought I was making myself better. I thought I was making myself healthier, because that's what we're told. And so when I went to the doctor, 10 months later, after I started carnivore, when I went to the doctor, I thought he might kick me out. I thought he's going to say, I'm not going to treat you anymore.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but he basically looked at my blood work and said, there's nothing I can do for you. Everything's great. And I was like, what? I said, that's interesting, because I only eat meat. And he just kind of skimmed on past that. He didn't question me. And it wasn't until my second appointment that I really got into it with him about it. And he is not against it. But that's not what you asked. You asked about my evolution. So once I had committed to it, and I could only eat those two things, I just kind of had to wait out the smell and taste issue. And I think it was maybe 6 months later, I was finally able to eat chicken, and I did really miss chicken at that point. So a few months in, I was able to eat eggs. And so it just kind of happened kind of gradually. I don't know if it happened faster because of carnivore, or if it was, this was the way it was going to happen for me. This was the healing process. I don't know. I like to think it was a little bit faster because of carnivore, but there are people out there still dealing with it. For me, it lasted 2 years and 8 months. Wow. So I didn't really use a lot of spices. I couldn't, because almost every spice has some sort of garlic and onion, mixed in with it. So it was mostly salt. I was able to use one of Redmond's seasoned salt for a little while, or earlier than I could actually use garlic and onion. But that was hard. So it literally, just meat, eggs, dairy. I couldn't use the spices. And so the evolution happened because of my taste and smell. And as I was able to add those other meats and eggs and things like that in, I did. And then it was last July, one day, I had this routine of once or twice a week, I would open up a jar of peanut butter and smell it, because that was one of the worst. Or I would open up, the garlic in the refrigerator and just smell it. And so it was a Thursday. I know, because I made taco burgers on Monday, and it made me a little bit sick. And on Thursday, when I smelled the peanut butter, it smelled like peanut butter. And I was like, what? And I went straight to the refrigerator and started pulling things out. I stood at the refrigerator with the doors open for about 30 seconds, because I was scared. Because I thought, after smelling the peanut butter, I thought it was better. But I was scared to smell the salsa. I was scared to smell, some of the things in there. And everything smelled normal. And I sobbed for about 10 minutes in the refrigerator, went all around the house smelling things. I mean, it was a glorious day. I cried pretty much all afternoon, immediately made myself a cup of decaf, because I wanted to taste coffee. Because the few times I've had it, in the almost 3 prior years, it didn't taste like coffee. It didn't really taste and smell like skunk so much anymore, but it also didn't taste like coffee. So that was a really exciting day for me. And there are still a few things that are off every now and then, but for the most part, my evolution was based on the things that I could eat. And now, as long as it's an animal product, I can eat it. I almost never have a problem now. But I love making recipes, and a lot of people are kind of against substituting things on the carnivore diet. They say it's like a vegan making a steak out of whatever they make steak out of. But I think making a pizza out of carnivore foods is completely different than that. There's something about being able to have pizza when you're having a pizza party at your house and not feel bad about it and not go off plan for it. You know what I mean? So if I can make a pizza crust out of crushed pork rinds and eggs and some butter, and those are all animal products, I don't see the problem, So my evolution has gone from just the steaks and the hamburgers to loving to kind of substitute things and make recipes, or do a carnivore bread on occasion just for fun, or carnivore bagels. So I can put cream cheese and, some salmon on it, and lox and cream cheese on a bagel. You know what I mean? That feeling kind of like you're eating normal. And I don't think there's anything wrong with not wanting to have a steak or a burger for every meal. I think it's okay to make those things. So I love coming up with those new recipes and sharing those with people. I think that's fun. And I think the people who like poo-poo that and say, oh, you shouldn't do that, are really discounting it for the people who want to get started but are scared to give things up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if somebody wants to get started, but they're like, they don't want to give up their coffee, and you say, well, you have to give up your coffee or you can't be a carnivore. You're not allowed in the club. That's dumb. Like, give them a break. If somebody needs to keep their diet soda in for the first 6 months because that's what keeps it, fine. Like, I think we're still going to be better off eat as much meat or animal products as you can. And, the rest of it kind of on the out circle of it is not a huge big deal if we can just get people, like people say, oh, you can't use spices, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I think that's silly and unfair. I think some people have to do those things. And if you don't have to, then great. But I think some people have to do those things. And aren't we better off just accepting those people and letting them in and not bashing them when they're, eating 95% carnivore? Like, give them a break. They're still doing better than 99% of Americans probably. If you're 95% carnivore, you're doing pretty darn good. And so I love coming up with those recipes to help those people, kind of like hot wings, do put some hot sauce on your chicken wings. It's okay. I think that's unfair. So
that's so great. You and I talked about that on your podcast, and I thought that was really an interesting subject, because it's true, to be abrasive to someone that is, not an absolutist or dogmatically adherent to the definition or whatever the definition. I don't know who defines the definition. I was talking to Michael Mason the other day, and he's like, I don't call myself a carnivore. He's like, this is just the way I've been eating for the last 25 years. Before there was a buzzword about it. It's just, exactly how I eat. And I 100% agree. Like, the Statue of Liberty, bring me, you're tired, you're sick, you're poor, like, come as you are, just get started, just get started. Like, if you need to limp in here with 6 Mountain Dews a day, all right, fine. Maybe we'll start with trying to get to 5, and then we'll get to 4, but like, don't think like, oh my God, I got to just give it all up right now.
That's right.
It's like, just get in here and just get started. And like, it'll work itself out.
Absolutely.
100% agree. And whether you add things in or you want to call it what you want, like, sure. Like, hey, I'm a vegan. Here's one. I'm a vegan that just eats a little meat every now and then.
Right. You're a vegan that eats meat with every meal instead of vegetables.
like let's spin it that way. So I think the titles are kind of irrelevant in a sense. I mean, great, create an identity around it. If it makes you proud and happy and gives you a sense of community, go for it. But don't let it be a dismissal or, a feeling of unacceptance or something like that. Yeah. Because to me, it's about the conscious awareness and conscious decision for prioritization of health. So well, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the amount of people that will come to one of my posts when I post the pizza, and it looks like real pizza, the amount of people that will come to my post and say, that's not carnivore. Like, did you read the caption? Did you listen to the video? Because it's carnivore pizza. It's all animal products, and it's amazing. I did, I put sauce on the one for my family, and I eat a little bit of it sometimes, but it's not a big deal. Like, and for me, once you've been doing it for a long time, a year, 2 years, 3 years, I'm almost 3 years. Once you've been doing it for that long, I know that if I take a few bites of a pizza, or I have one slice that has a tablespoon of tomato sauce on it, maybe, I'll know, though, if it doesn't agree with me, right?
Yeah,
because for the most part, I eat very clean. And so I will know if that tomato sauce bothers me. And I'm not saying that because I don't feel it, it's not doing something inside. It probably is. Yeah. But if I'm okay with tomato sauce on a pizza once a month, or not even, because usually I use ricotta cheese on mine. But if I eat a slice of pizza that has this much tomato sauce on it, it's okay, right? Like, it's okay.
It's not where it's not for everybody. Like, it's not where the battle's being lost, y'all.
Exactly.
If that's the marginal place of scrutiny that you're getting hit with, like, good. That's how tightly tuned in,
right?
we
Exactly.
are with our bodies and what makes us, what works for us and what doesn't. Great. It's not like we're going, okay, was it the fries, or was it the milkshake, or was it the 10 bags of Skittles, or like you said, the 20 cupcakes you had in 36 hours? Like, it's a lot of culprits to try to deduce who the the problem one is. But
that's right.
I did the same. We used to have pizza parties at my old real estate firm every Friday, and we did this one thing for like several months, or 1 month. We were testing, a different pizza joint every Friday to decide the best, or vote on the best pizza in New York City.
Yeah.
And every Friday the pizza would come and I would just scrape off the cheese and pepperoni from a bunch of slices and leave the slices. And people
I've
would
done that.
come in and be like, dude, Jake, like, just throw the bread away. Don't leave it there, like for us all to see it naked. But I would eat it. It wasn't, it's not like I scraped every bit of tomato sauce off of it.
Right. Yeah.
And I loved it. The
Yeah.
same thing, it's just this mash
Yeah.
mush of pepperoni and cheese, but it's
Yeah.
great.
And there are places that will sell you a crustless pizza. Like you have to ask them. It's not usually on the menu, but there are places that will put, a little bit of sauce if you want it or not, and some cheese and pepperoni and bacon bits and ham and all the meat toppings and just cook it like that. If you're creative with it when you're out, you can, it's totally doable. But I've done that. I've, gone to a party and there's 15 pizzas and I look around and I assess the amount of people there. And I think this is more than enough pizza for that many people. And I'll take 3 slices and I'll peel the cheese and the meat off, I've done that too. A little bit of tomato sauce isn't going to hurt me if it, lets me feel kind of normal while I'm with everybody eating, but sometimes I don't eat it all. You just have to decide how you feel about it. But chances are I'm going to scrape the cheese and stuff off the pizza.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the recipe for your pizza. And by the way, anybody listening, or for everybody listening rather, definitely check out Serena's carnivore pizza recipe because it's awesome. But the pork rinds in the crust, huge move. That was such an eye-opening experience to me, and for everyone that's I'm uncertain, like I don't want to give up my breadcrumbs. Like how do I batter things?
Right,
Crushed
I know.
Pork rinds are amazing batter.
I know.
Amazing
Chicken tenders.
batter. Chicken tenders. I'm from New Orleans. Like fried catfish in that. Like all the Italians. Like, what about the palm and the veal cutlets? Like there you go.
That's right. And I have to be honest, though, the pork rind thing for the pizza crust, that's actually from Courtney Luna. It's actually her bread recipe.
Nice.
And it's so easy. I can use that recipe and get an entire, like almost 16-inch pizza out of it. And then I'll make garlic cheese bread also, which is just amazing. And that's the reel that people have gone crazy over. Like, that's not carnivore. No, it is. It's 100% carnivore except for the garlic. It's 100% carnivore. And I did dip it in just a little bit of tomato sauce, but I was fine. It was fine. I didn't die. It was fine.
Shout out to Courtney Luna and her soon to be released cooking book. I think.
Yeah, October 1st. Yeah, I love how every time I go to my Amazon to check on an order, it's on there because it says delivered October 1st. So that's going to be on there for 6 months. Every time I go, I love
just
that.
Like, come on.
Every now and then I just send her a screenshot of it. I'm like, nice. I'm still waiting. It's coming.
Nice. I actually got a, years ago, this was probably like 10 years ago, from a company that I was getting prep meals made from when I was living in New York at the time and competing in bodybuilding. They did this keto keto pizza that they made. And it was with ground chicken as the crust. And I, at the time I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, oh my God. And so like to hear that and to, like, I've made some myself with ground chicken. It's awesome. Like it totally works, y'all. You can roll it out with the pin and then
it's amazing.
It tastes a lot like crust. Mm-hmm. And yes, to Serena's point about you can go to many of these pizza shops. Look, people want to make money.
That's right.
Bottom line, like bottom dollar. They want your money. They will kind of, for the most part, accommodate. You go to certain, maybe Lucali in Brooklyn, he might not say that and take it as they make it. But for the most part, people say, oh, you just want me to throw some cheese on the oven and skillet and kind of make a chili queso? Exactly.
Yes,
they'll accommodate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So going through the steps like you were talking about, I mean, that was an extremely moving story about, being in front of the fridge and standing there for 30 seconds before, tackling the salsa and all these things. And then, crying for the 10 minutes and then throughout the rest of it. And that, like, I was just like, wow, listening to that. 2 years and 8 months.
Yeah.
You didn't
2 years and 8 months of, how when you're driving down the road and you smell a skunk, right? Yeah. And the smell is so horrible. Imagine that being your life. That's what it was like. And I didn't know, like, sometimes I would smell something and I would say, what is that I'm smelling? And somebody would tell me, like, oh, it's popcorn. And I was like, really? I could have sworn, that was a skunk. Like, there were so many times where I didn't know. And I would have phantom smells. I'd be sitting on the couch and I'd smell gasoline. And I'd be like, does anybody else smell gasoline? Which is weird because gasoline didn't smell like gasoline at the time. But I would have phantom smells. I would smell cigarette smoke all the time. It was very bizarre, horrible. It was a horrible thing that happens to people. So, yeah, it was hard.
2 years and 8 months with this phantom erratic, extremely
Hmm.
displeasing,
Yeah.
difficult to bear sense of smell. Two
Hmm.
years and 8 months. Like, at what point, I'm thinking about that, like, God damn, I don't know if I'd be able to do that for a week. What,
Right.
as this grows and continues to go, let's take us through what was the first week of that like? Let
It was,
alone like, all right, it's still going. Here's a month later. Here's 6 months.
yeah.
Like, is this
Hmm.
going to, at what point is this going to last forever? Am I never going to
Yeah.
get over this? Or like, I mean, if you're open to talk about it, like that to me
Yeah.
is just, it's a wild thing.
I thought I'd have it forever. And there are many Facebook groups, and I'm in several of them. And I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of people that
Wow.
go through this.
Wow.
And so, I'm in this group and I'm listening to people. And I remember people like there was this one person who had gained 100 pounds because all they could eat was sugar and
Wow.
sweets. And then somebody else who was in the hospital on a feeding tube
Ugh.
because they couldn't keep anything down. And I remember this one woman had a son who was like 12 or 13 years old and he was autistic.
Mm.
And the pain I felt for her because the hospital just kept sending him home. If he's hungry enough, he'll eat. He's just being picky. And she was like, no, it's the smell. And she was telling them that she was in a Facebook group and she knew what this was and that it had happened to him after he had had that sickness. And just the
Mm.
idea that the doctors in the hospital, and I don't know what happened, but it sounded like they were ready to let him just starve to death. Like they wouldn't put him on a feeding tube. They wouldn't put him on an IV. It was like, they were like, he's just being picky. And she was saying, no, this is what it is. So I was listening to I was seeing all of these stories in there. And on one hand, it makes you feel hopeless. But then, every third or fourth post is somebody saying, hey, mine is better. Your time is coming. And then there was this
Oh, wow.
chiropractor in Texas somewhere. I can't remember his name now, but he was doing this Spitlogan block or something like that in your neck where he would put like needles or something in the back of your neck.
Mm.
And you'd have to fly there. His appointments were out months. You'd have to fly there and he would have you bring the foods that you couldn't eat, like the things that you can't eat. Like, or a lot of people would bring Doritos and Cheetos and things like that to those appointments. And he would do it and then he would have you eat whatever the thing was. And sometimes you would go to your hotel or whatever and come back the next day for another block. And if it didn't work, you were out $5,000 or $6,000 or more. And if it did work, great. And so there were all these stories of people trying it. It was working. And then some people would say, I spent, my life savings and it still didn't work. I still can't. I mean, it was, this was a serious thing that somebody would go and spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on just to take the chance and hope that it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was it was really hard watching all of that and knowing that I'm somewhere in the middle. There were all these people saying, oh, you should try, whatever supplement or this vitamin helped me or zinc. And then people would say the nicotine patch worked for them. And there were all these people saying all of these things worked. And I tried a bunch of them.
Mm.
And then it just got to the point about 3 months in where I just said, you know what, I'm not going to try things anymore. I'm not going to try to eat new things anymore. I'm not going to try these supplements anymore. I even bought this red light therapy. It was a little thing with a cord on it and these little red lights that you shove up your nose and you're supposed to use it for like 10 minutes 3 times a day. And the red light was supposed to heal it. That didn't work either. So I have all these supplements that I bought, all these things that I tried. And I just said, you know what? Like I would get my hopes up. I would hear all of these stories from people saying this is the thing that worked for me, alpha lipoic acid and all these things. And I was like, I'm going to try that one. I thought, okay, this is going to
Yeah.
fix
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then nothing worked. And so, I just decided I was probably going to have it, probably forever. There were people in the group that had it, since the beginning of the sickness. And I was, a year in when it happened for me, a year after that sickness was found.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I'm going to be those people. I'm just going to have it forever. If they've had it a year longer than me and they still have it. And so, yeah, it was hard. It was, you just think this is going to be the rest of my life. I'm never going to be able to smell my grandchildren. I'm never going to smell that new baby smell again. I'm never going to smell, whatever, like you just name it, like your favorite food cooking, or because nothing was real, even after it had started to get better, nothing was really normal for a really long time. And every now and then I would smell something and I was like, oh, that smells like chicken. And I remember one time after I was finally able to eat chicken, when it was cold, it still smelled rotten.
Yeah.
But there was one time, I guess it was probably around that same time in July at some point, I took my chicken wings out of the refrigerator and they smelled like cold chicken wings. And I ate a bunch of them cold right out of the fridge. I was like, that is one of the best flavors ever, to actually be able to eat cold chicken again, because I would see people with their cold meat cookies or their ribeye right out of the fridge on their lunch break. And I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't eat it cold like that. It just smelled and tasted horrible until I would reheat it. And so the cold chicken wing thing was a huge pivotal moment for me being able to eat those. So it was very emotional. And if you've never been through it, it's hard for people to understand, but it's just literally imagine smelling a skunk all the time to the point where you're gagging from the smell multiple times a day. And specifically when you're trying to eat, like, it's just like, it's hard to fathom that, and so, now obviously I'm relieved, and every now and then I'll smell something and say, that does not smell right. That does not smell like coffee, or that does not smell like, whatever it is. I will just be like, that, are you sure that's what that is? Because that is not what it smells like. But most of the time it's fine now. Most of the time.
Well, it sounds a lot better than it was. That's for sure.
Yeah. So much better. Like, I hardly ever talk about it as a current thing anymore. I share it as my story, but it's not something that I usually talk about, on a regular basis anymore. Whereas before it had kind of become my identity, and I actually bought these little silicone rings that look kind of like a nose ring, and you could put essential oils on it and then put it right here. And I would wear it to my kids' basketball games and volleyball games because we served baked potatoes with chili on them and stuff. And the smell would, like, sometimes I couldn't stay in the gym for their games. I would have to go sit in the car for a little while. And so I found these little rings that you could just wear right here. You couldn't see it from far away, but up close people would be like, what is that? Like almost look like a little nose ring. But I had to do it. And then I would smell whatever essential oil was on it instead of smelling the chili, which helped me. I mean, that's the only way I got through some of those games. So I did that for about 2 years of volleyball and basketball games to be able to get through the games.
Wow. Was there ever any pushback from the world around you, or insensitivity or impatience from people like, oh, come on, Serena, it can't be that bad. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like you're crazy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's all in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Many people said that, and it's hard. People don't have sympathy really for something that they haven't experienced, in a lot of cases. And so it was that kind of a thing. I would just, I just had to learn to deal with it and explain my situation. And, if they understood, great. And if they didn't, that's fine too. And once I was really into carnivore, I was doing a lot of that anyway with carnivore, like brushing off what people said and trying to explain myself. You know what I mean? So I guess I was able to just kind of plow on past it the same kind of way that I was doing with carnivore at that point, like, well, it is what it is. And a lot of people didn't understand. I would say, oh, I can't eat, I would say, hey, could you not put seasoning on one of those steaks for me? And people were like, what? Like, people just, it was hard for people to understand, for sure.
I remember I asked you that because I remember when we were talking on your podcast, and you're the first person that really illustrated for me in the sense that you said, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've eaten a lot of different ways. I've gone through, bits of adversity or had to overcome challenges, but I've never gotten so much criticism or just constant, opinions from aggressive opinions from people than until I became a carnivore. And I was like, wow,
True.
Me too. So
that's true.
I guess you had a lot of, again, experience kind of leading into that because of having lost the sense of smell and whatnot. But then you take on this other new identity, so to speak, and that became the new thing for people to throw shade at you for.
Yeah. I mean, nobody ever said anything when I was doing Weight Watchers and eating, more processed foods. Nobody said anything if we went to Krispy Kreme to get donuts, and I wasn't having one because I was on Weight Watchers or on a different diet, they would give me a hard time for not getting a donut, right? Yeah. They give you a hard time for not getting that. Weight Watchers, cabbage soup diet, 14-day juice fast. Like, nobody ever gave me a hard time about anything like they did with carnivore. Never. I mean, it was like, so now I'm eating whole foods, my species appropriate diet. Red meat has more nutrients ounce for ounce than kale does or than blueberries do. And we look at those things like they're superfoods, but yet there's something wrong with me for just eating, steak and hamburgers and fish. And, we eat such a variety of the carnivore rainbow in order to stay healthy. And people just, I don't know if they'll ever understand. I mean, I hope they will at some point, but I've never had as much criticism. And I think if those people would just try it, for 30 days or do it for a week, for crying out loud, you're going to be tired the first couple of weeks. So it's better to do 30 days. Yeah. But just a week is enough to get most type 2 diabetics off of insulin. Just a week is enough to make measurable improvements in your health. And then if you choose to go back to the way you were eating before and go back on your medications, then fine, that's on you, but I think you have to get out of your own way. I think, people are in their own way because it sounds weird. It sounds crazy. And, so they are the ones preventing themselves from improving, I think.
Oh, I don't think I definitely
Yeah.
I concur thoroughly.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so, God, it's a hell of a story. I want to go back to beginning to finish up with. So, you go through these phases, and now you're into this carnivore world, and now you have your homeopathy background and experience, and having raised the kids this way, and you have this eureka moment of let's make some tallow. What does Santa's workshop, Serena's workshop, look like as far as that? I'm imagining like that's a tallow, this big conveyor belt. The kids are all helping. What did that process start like? You're literally small business, self-started entrepreneur
Hmm.
manufacturing a product, which is doing it out of the house, handmade and homemade. This is
Hmm.
salt of the earth kind of stuff. What was the evolution of the carnivore revolution?
Yeah. So we haven't mentioned that yet. So I do have a YouTube channel called the Carnivore Revolution. And so I do interviews like this there. And I love it. I love that aspect of it too. I just think that's a lot of fun to learn and to spread the word and, and get that out there to other people. And so the workshop is still in my kitchen. I looked this morning, I think it was 163 orders so far this month, which is amazing. And they're all gone except for the last 8 that came in today. They're all already, on their way. We try to ship everything just at least within a few days. But it's me and my 17 and 15-year-old daughters help me a lot. Like, I
Nice.
don't think I could do it without their help. They have been just huge for me. So it started with making, maybe 48 jars in a week to sell at the farmer's market. And that felt like a
Mm.
lot at the time. That did feel like a lot. And now we spend one whole day, maybe a day and a half, making lotions, maybe every 2 weeks. It's getting closer and closer together, the amount of time that we have to spend doing that, making the lotions. And the more scents we have and the more variety and products we have, the longer it takes and the harder it gets. So
Mm.
we're trying to work out a process now. We were talking about it yesterday. They are huge. Like, if you send me an email and I say, let me check with the shipping department, it's my 15 and 17-year-old girls that I'm asking about something. If I say, let me check, I'm checking with them. And my husband is, huge for like helping logistically, like to figure things out, spreadsheets, and things like that. That
Nice.
I
Nice.
mean, I need to make the time. I need to make the lotions, and I need to get the lotions out. So all the other stuff is kind of on the back burner. Even housework is kind of on the back burner at this point. We are just scraping by the skin of our teeth at this point, and I'm so grateful. Like, this business has been such a blessing to me, and being able to help people with their skin, with eczema and psoriasis, and get people off of the toxic ingredients. Like, that is really my heart, is to teach people about the toxic foods, which is where carnivore and the Carnivore Revolution comes in. But even more than that, skincare, or not more than that, but alongside of that is skincare being so super important, because you shouldn't put anything on your skin that you can't also eat. And most people would not eat the products they put in their hair, on their skin. We just wouldn't do that. And so the entire kitchen gets taken over for however many hours. The girls, you can see them in the background of some of my videos where they're sitting at the table. They do the labels while I make the lotions. And because once I start making the lotions, my hands are, a little bit oily. And so once I start making the lotions, I don't like to touch the jars,
Yeah.
because I like for the jars to stay clean and shiny. And so they will put the labels on, and they will come to the counter, and they will take the tops off of, 40 jars or something, and flip them over, and the jars are ready. And I go through and I squeeze all the lotions into them, and then they come back behind me and they close up all the jars and stack them.
Nice.
I mean, and the space that I'm using is our schoolroom. We homeschool. And so I'm using my desk for that, which is normally just a school desk with a shelving system behind me where I keep all of the products. And I have to, like, this is out of our house. And so if we're not going to start eating our dinner off of pallets and get rid of our dining room table, I gotta make it flow.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure I order all the supplies at the same time, so that when they get there, I can make all the lotions, get all the jars filled, and get all the boxes out of the way. So there's always a trip to the dump, with all the empty boxes. And I mean, it's definitely a system, that we're working on. We're trying to figure out the best way to get as much made, and ready to ship as possible. And so it's definitely a process, and we work on it every week, as part of our school, trying to figure this out and make this work. And so far it's working, and I'm super grateful for every single person that has ordered. Every order comes with a handwritten note saying thank
Yeah.
you. I mean, I never want to stop doing that. I think that's really important, that somebody writes a note and says thank you,
Yeah. That's
because supporting small businesses and, helping people with their businesses is huge. And we all do that for each other. We order each other's things, we promote each other's products because relationships are important too. And these relationships that I have, these relationships that I've made is part of the reason I have been able to be successful. And so I always want to reciprocate that with people and help other people, just like other people have helped me with my business. And so the next step is going to have to be a building or an office somewhere, which we're also excited about. We'll figure it out. So it's been really good though. It's been really fun.
Wow. So from skincare to topical creams to lotions to oils to even candles, everything you can see.
Candles,
Talking about.
beard and hair oil,
Beard and
the
hair
new
oil.
pump. And the new pump, which is an amazing texture that we worked on for a long time to get that texture where you can actually pump it out of it. It looks like a vino when it lands on your hand. Like it really looks like a lotion. It's amazing. It came out so great. It's been a lot of fun to figure all that out. Like my son will come in, he's 21, and he'll come in with his girlfriend and be like, she's doing science, and they'll look and say, what are you making? And I've got my mixer bowl out and I've got, 15 different things around me I'm like, I'm just trying this one. I'm trying this new thing today. And it's, being in charge of your own website and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I can do that and I can put the product on the website before it even cools,
Wow.
I can have the product on the website immediately. Once you figure out the process and figure out what the product is going to be, I can put it on the website right away, which is great. So I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the growing and learning about it as we go, and we've made mistakes, and it is what it is, right?
That's beautiful. That's an awesome story too. And
it's fun.
Serena's telling every bit of the truth, the handwritten notes, the process, kids in the kitchen, everything. You can see it on our Instagram and on our YouTube.
Fun.
Be sure to check out purelytallow.com to purchase any of the products we mentioned. Also Serena's YouTube channel, the Carnivore Revolution, and find her and follow her on Instagram at serena.carnivore. I'll have everything for you guys in the show notes. But yeah, thank you so much today for being a guest at Serena Musick. It's a real pleasure to have you here on the show.
Same. And I'm excited about your channel. I think you're going to do great.
It's good to be around good people.
Yeah.
And
it's awesome.
Extending the message for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll be putting on some lotion here in a little while after I take a shower. That's for sure. I mean, every day, just to plug that with no shame, I use Serena's Purely Tallow on the face, and I have definitely eaten it more than one occasion. Like easy little dollop, like tastes like good beef tallow.
Yeah, and the whipped tallow is just such a different texture. It's easier to eat. I mean, not that I'm encouraging people to eat the lotion. Use it on your skin, but if you ever need a snack,
yeah, you get stuck, you're in a jam, it'll work as food for sure.
That's right.
Thanks so much for everybody. Again, thank you to our guest, Serena Musick. I am Jake Thomas. This has been another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. Hopefully you got some good points from Serena about having to live a happy and healthy, wealthy life and not be sick, scared, and stupid. See you guys next time.